Yeah, so I've done work for a long time on consumer politics, and I've always shied away from consumer credit because consumer behavior in that area seemed to be, frankly, irrational. So people take on, especially in the U.S. context, although increasingly in Europe, take on much higher levels of debt than you normally would expect them to. And so my new project was to figure out why. And so that really is why do families who really don't have many means end up dedicating so much of their revenue each month to paying just straight interest charges on debt that they've accumulated. So I started this research before the financial crisis, but it quickly became clear in 2007, 2008 that a lot of the home equity in the U.S. that was the home equity debt that was being taken on was really actually credit card debt that was being rolled over into home equity loans. And so there's a deeper story about how this drove the financial crisis. And when I first started looking at it, it really seemed like an issue of social welfare, and that there's a feature of consumer credit that makes it fundamentally regressive. And so I was really interested in that even before the financial crisis. And the problem is that the poorest people who take out loans pay the highest interest rates. And it also turns out that financially, if you have a retirement plan or a 401k, as we say in the U.S., many of the dramatic returns that we were getting on those were coming directly out of the consumer lending sector. So banking in the U.S. was the most profitable sector in the economy, and consumer credit was the most profitable part of the banking sector. So we had this weird thing where the poor were paying disproportionately high interest rates, and the kind of upper middle class who had, pensions that were growing very rapidly, well, they were growing rapidly in part because of these payments that were being made by the poor. And so it seemed to be tied to the growing inequality in the U.S.